Very good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. We'll start the call as usual, and Shiva has just joined. So, Shiva, you want to take it away?
Yep. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Okay.
Yeah, we can see your screen now. Yeah.
Okay. So a quick update on where we are with basically ConnectSecure. So if you remember, basically we had a little bit of a rocky start to V4. We started with almost like 458 tickets, basically, which were logged in at that particular point of time, which essentially was for various things in terms of performance, some things not working, etc. And as of today, basically, we are down to 8 tickets, which basically are pending. So we've kind of covered a lot of ground in the last few weeks, and basically the team has been working extremely hard to make sure that everything is basically in place. And I also want to take this moment to thank a few of the partners who've actually gone above and beyond in terms of helping us test this. And the reason I say this is that while we can test a lot of things in the lab that we have, when we basically put it in a real environment, there are certain things which essentially we see, which requires us to take a different approach to certain things. And that's basically something that we have been able to do over the last 6 weeks. And uh, given that we already have the V3 version running and the V4 basically is a prime beta, we've been able to kind of get a lot of a set of partners who basically have given us very strong feedback. And basically, we've gone through the entire sequence with them. And I would like to call out that Matt from Blowfish, he basically kind of gave a lot of his time to basically test out everything. And then we have Nick and a few others who basically kind of spent a lot of time making this platform better. And I'm happy to say that today, when we look at this platform, we essentially believe that this platform, as of the end of this week, will basically be announceable as production ready. Now, I want to basically kind of set the base for a couple of things that we constantly keep hearing from people, right? One is essentially um, a little bit of thought process. Now, when we basically talk to a lot of people, everybody deploys a lightweight agent, and then they come back to us saying that you're not showing all the vulnerabilities that you're supposed to show. And basically, Nessus or somebody else picked up these during the scan. And then when we look at it, it is basically about things like Nginx, TLS errors, or some of those pieces. So I want to just lay it out saying that we basically, when you are a lightweight agent, you're basically looking at only that machine. You can look at that machine deeply from inside, but you cannot have an external view of the machine sitting inside the machine. The role of looking at it from outside inside towards the inside is essentially the role of the probe. So when you are deploying in a certain network, right? So if it is a corporate network, we still, so there are two ways of doing it, right? One is basically you deploy the lightweight agent so that you say that, okay, I don't want to basically have any scope of lateral movement. So I'm just shutting down everything. So I want to put lightweight agents, perfectly fine. But my request is please also install a probe and scan those same machines, because the outside view looking inside will not be clear unless you essentially put a probe which looks at it from outside. So a combination of these two will give you the best results in case you're worried about it. But if you put a probe and give it the appropriate credentials and the ability to basically navigate the network, it too will be able to do this. And the point is that the technology that we use is the same technology that is being used by a Nessus or a Qualys, right? So if Nessus or Qualys is being given the ability to kind of create the dissolvable agent, move it across machines, then the ConnectSecure also should be given the same ability to do so, to produce the same set of results. And that's basically something that we would request that you do in this particular scenario so that you can get a complete view. Now, from a V3 to V4 parity perspective, last week we talked about some things which are missing. So the first was assessments, and this has been released. Then there are a set of compliance wizards, which basically is for different standards. That also has been released. And so we'll be adding more and more compliance wizards. The only thing that's left is a guide showing how you migrate from V3 to V4 from a UI compatibility perspective. And this will be released at the time of us basically saying we are production ready, which we are hoping to do like right before the right of boom. So basically on 3rd March, we plan to basically do this so that everybody can use it and let us know. So this is essentially kind of the assessment scan. So you can see the new thing which says this is an assessment. And again, assessment can be independently run because usually it is done by the pre-sales folks. So you can deploy an assessment agent and then basically it downloads a zip file. Once it downloads a zip file, you basically kind of run the start assessment.bat, which essentially, and then you log into the local host. Now, one question that came up from a set of people is that, oh, this is showing not secure. Folks, please understand that when I am on a local machine, it is not possible for me to, so the only thing which I can put there at the maximum is even if I put a certificate, it won't hold good because the certificate that it's presenting is that of the machine. So because there is no domain or there is no other piece. So the certificate that we cannot produce a certificate in the local domain, and which is why basically we will see this thing which says not secure. However, remember that the server is running on the local host, which means that it is tied to 127.0.0.1, which means that it is not accessible from outside. It is accessible only from that machine and within that machine only. So that is essentially how this is configured. So the point is that what we are going to do, since we didn't have the time, we have not done that. But going forward, this entire thing will be converted into a desktop application so that you don't need to run a browser, etc. And then once it is run as a desktop application, then you don't have this problem of looking at it as being insecure, etc. But you essentially log in. And then once you log in, you basically have the sales toolkit and all of the things that you're used to in terms of providing the ranges, getting the results. So, and then downloading this thing. And then after that, you can upload the assessment file in the UI. And then you can essentially look at all of the results of the assessments. So this is basically live. Second, one of the things that basically was kind of recommended to us by some of the cybersecurity experts like Andrew Morgan and the folks from the cyber call, they actually told us that it would be great if you could essentially provide some sort of a view which showed whether there were any Screen Connect vulnerabilities which were there in a particular company, and basically kind of provide those details. So we have basically added this and we basically created it. So you can essentially see the summaries, and then you can see the details by company. You can see how many assets are affected, how many companies are affected, and then kind of look at what are the CVEs for the Screen Connect. Plus, you can see against each company, what is the name of software. So basically they have Screen Connect and Screen Connect software.Screen Connect. These are two basically that we found basically which has the vulnerability. And essentially we talk about what are the affected companies and affected assets. And then if you go into details, you can essentially see all the details of the companies and the assets that are affected. Okay. So this is very quick to run, and you can essentially get to see because the latest, this thing says that there are a lot of people who are still running on-premise versions, which are vulnerable. So just wanted to make sure that this is basically checked out. As you can see, the Screen Connect client version is not being checked right now. And the reason for that is that we've confirmed with the ConnectWise team that the Screen Connect client, even if it is not upgraded, is not basically going to be cause a problem. And primarily because the vulnerability relates to the ability of a user to remotely take over the Screen Connect server and basically change the user database on the Screen Connect server. That's how basically that vulnerability works. It does not work on the Screen Connect client itself. So essentially you won't see problems coming out of Screen Connect client. Okay, so that's basically this. And then there was a feature request in terms of being able to choose multiple agents for PII scans. Then the next one is basically on the problem details view. People basically said that the scores were basically kind of very minuscule. So you can essentially adjust the size of the scores. You can make it small, medium, large. So that way you can basically see the score in the size that is basically convenient to you. And this is again stored. Also, basically, we have the integrations added at a company level. So we can essentially kind of create integrations at the company level. Earlier, it was only at a global level. So these are all things that are available to you as of date today. The thing that I want to talk about is what is basically coming in this weekend in this Friday's release. Okay, so in this Friday's release, so just quickly going over here, here is essentially um, the new feature that we are adding, which we are calling as, which is the OS patching. So here is a Windows 10 system that essentially, if I go into the solutions, I will essentially see that it requires a KB upgrade. So there is a patch which is missing. Okay, this may be a recent patch or an old patch. So basically that's a remediation. So now if I go into the patch management screen, what would then happen is that I would see a view which says OS patching. And then once I essentially go into OS patching, it is showing me this machine and showing me that this is the fix. I can essentially say patch, and then I can select all the patches and then basically click on patch. The moment I click on patch, it would essentially create a job in the patch jobs, and then I can see that patch that is going to be delivered. So this can be run across multiple machines. And before you folks can ask, yes, we are basically going to be giving you the options to say that reboot the system or do not reboot the system. So that part of it is basically undergoing QA right now. So we have not put it over here, but it will be there shortly. And this is also available under auto patch. So now you can see that once the patch has been applied, it takes around 30 to 45 minutes. After the patch has been applied, if you come back to the screen, what you can see is that the patch job is completed. It shows that it's successful. Okay. And then if you basically go back to the asset, it will essentially kind of, so the expected behavior that you would have is that I go into the asset, I go and look at basically what are the KBs which are installed, what is the solutions. And the solutions, you should basically no longer see the recommendation for the upgrade. So this basically is kind of what we are doing with the patching. So that is basically the OS patching that is being delivered this end of this week. Okay. Okay, and then the ability to set up the font size and table size for all your tables and pages essentially has been provided. So you want smaller font size, larger font sizes, that can be done. Then you also have the ability to download MSI agents in additional to EXEs. And this also basically is available to you from a scripting perspective. So if you want to use it in your RMM, you can use it in your RMM too. And then the next one is that we also have the ability to validate any credentials. So the point is that whenever one of the things that we always saw was that you would enter the credentials, then you essentially went to, then we ran a scan. And then when you ran a scan, basically the credentials validation basically failed. So we now have the ability to tell an agent to validate all the credentials, in which case it will actually go out, validate the credentials, and then bring it back. And this is especially useful for things like firewalls, other machines. And like, for example, Windows AD, you can provide a sample machine and basically validate the agent. It will basically validate the credential. And so that you're basically sure that when the scan runs, you have absolutely no problems, because we have seen a number of cases where because of the credentials being wrong, the scan will come back. And then after that, basically people have to go and fix the credentials. So this becomes a good way of basically kind of knowing upfront whether the credentials are valid or not. So this is basically kind of, so this is the output. So once you put it in the probe, as you know, it's for the probe. So it will tell you whether the credentials are correct or basically it's incorrect. And then that's how basically it goes into, it shows you, right? The next one is that we have added the ability to migrate an agent between machines. So you can basically say, for example, you installed it by mistake on under one company. You want to move it to another company, you can essentially migrate it to another company. And then in case you basically kind of delete credentials for a probe, then it will get converted into a lightweight agent. And this was basically something that was asked in last week's call. And then we had confirmed that it would be possible. And basically it is now possible, and it converts back into a lightweight agent. We had one feature which was missing, which was basically the Windows 11 compatibility check that basically has been added into the system. So now you can see the Windows 11 compatibility check for all the Windows 10 machines. One of the things that was also requested is the ability to terminate jobs which are long running or basically hung because of various reasons. So the ability to terminate jobs has been added. And we had in the external scan, we had one setting which says that do you want to run brute force? That is, you want to run brute force scripts. So we can basically enable brute force, and you can enable on which ports you want to run these brute force uh, scripts. And then based on that, it will basically just run those brute force scripts. Um, then we basically have the compliance assessments. Now, compliance assessments, if you remember, basically we had started to create compliance assessments for various standards. We've now we'll be releasing Essential 8 and Cyber Essentials this week. And then going forward, we will be releasing basically PCI DSS and other standards also as part of the compliance this thing. So the same thing, which is you can essentially kind of set up templates. You can basically those questions will basically be asked in those will automatically be answered in those templates, and whatever questions can be automatically pulled from the data that's in there, you can essentially it will get pulled as evidence, and you can basically view and download the report. So this entire thing is basically also for compliance assessment. This is starting with 2 of the assessments, and then we will essentially kind of bring in all the other assessments into this. So this is how we are folding all of the assessments here. And since this is a data-driven approach, we will be able to pull all of the other assessments fairly quickly into the system. So this is the update as of now. And as I said, we believe that V4 is in a good shape right now. And I request all of you to basically kind of log into your V4 instance, have a look around, and we will essentially be kind of doing basically a refresh to basically bring in all the data and refreshing all the data on all of these pieces. So this is what we had have done for this week. So with that said, I'm just going to stop sharing. So Dennis, the MSI installer is already there. So Mark, lightweight agent install device will be skipped via probe scan jobs. So the way that it works is that it will not basically do the SMB based scanning, which is basically pushing the agent into the remote machine and scanning that machine. It will skip that portion. However, the outside to inside scan, which is basically a network scan, will be conducted by the probe on the machine in having lightweight agent too. Since a lot of attackers are using trials of RMM tools, attacks a report that shows all remote access tools at global and company levels would be a good report. Done, Dennis. I will basically take this back to development and we will basically put this over here. Is there an option to do patching via scheduled maintenance hours? Yes, you can schedule the patches, and that is basically part of the auto patch UI that we already have. If you need any additional flags over there, please let me know. We'll be absolutely happy to do that. And found that some of our clients installed from previous updated. So for the patching to work, a lightweight client has to be installed on the endpoint, correct? Actually, with the version that we have right now, it works both with the probe and the lightweight agent. So it's not required for you to essentially have a lightweight agent. However, the probe, in case you're using the probe, then the probe must be able to kind of have the capability to install a lightweight agent on the remote machine. So that equivalent, so that it can install software over there. Will you add the ability to see a patch log information via the portal and not have access to the PC server? So the patch logs basically, yes, are on the portal. So basically in the job information, if you go on the right-hand side, you will see the complete log of the patch. So you can actually download the patch from the log from the agent. On the agent migration, because if it is a probe, does it take the settings applied to the agent as well as the data collected, or does it just move the agent and need to be reconfigured for the customer it got moved to? It will take everything. It will take the settings and all of the credentials along with it when it is moved across. is NIST CSF happening soon for the compliance wizard? It will be probably the first thing in April, because in March we already have a list of compliances that are happening, and NIST CSF is basically kind of very lengthy in order to basically complete. So we have to actually break it down into multiple sections so that people can complete it in a staged manner. When will reports be available in PDF? It's already available. Please, if you go into your report section, you'll see that all the critical reports are now available in PDF. The remaining will essentially be available by the end of this week. Do you have an ETA for the WatchGuard integration? I will basically, Chris, I will basically get back on this. My belief is that it has already been done. So if it is not visible, then maybe they have basically suppressed it for a particular bug. I will basically get this and I will close this out this week. When are you going to, Sean, when are you going to add the ability to suppress alerts on all patches using the suppress alerts field? Sean, if you want to kind of come on and basically tell us what exactly this is, because I'm not clear.
Yeah, sure. So basically, we have automation set up that allows for our patching groups to, our pilot and production patching groups. We need a way to suppress the patches for 5 days for everything, not just Microsoft or not just third party. Apparently, it just does one or the other. So it's feeding our ticket. We had our alerting turned off for a couple months now. We have a ticket with you guys. It's an issue. I just wanted to get an update on that.
Okay, so what you're saying is that irrespective of what the issue is, you want basically to say that for 5 days, I don't want it to basically come up as an alert. So basically it should be suppressed for X number of days that you basically define. So Sean,
Correct.
the only thing is that the dilemma we are running into is the following, okay? And if you can, because everybody is here, we can take a decision. So we basically, if for example, this like the screen connect thing comes, we basically work and get this out. Now your suppression field is there. So for 5 days, we basically suppress it. Now, I'm just wondering if somebody has configured it that way and he doesn't get the ticket, then they're going to be very mad at us saying that, like, how come you didn't alert me that this problem was there? So how do we handle this?
Yeah, there's a setting that you guys put in place to add that suppression days. We would just like for that to function correctly, is what we're asking for.
No,
It's there. It functions for half of the patch. It either functions for the Microsoft patches or the third-party patching. I don't remember which, but it doesn't function the same for both.
It works for, so we have given this for the Microsoft patching, Sean, because that was something that people said, because Microsoft releases patches on a patch Tuesday, and then we essentially suppress it for X number of days, because that's a known thing where we don't have any critical things which are basically coming through a Microsoft patch. Usually most of them are high and medium low. If you basically apply this for third party, the problem for third party that I am seeing is that if you put suppress days, and I basically say I'll suppress the alerts, no problem. That's a simple thing for me to do. Then how are we going to handle these situations of things which have to be remediated immediately? How, if I don't alert you, then are you basically saying that we would take the onus, you will take the onus on yourself to figure out what is critical and look at it, and you don't want us to raise the ticket in spite of it being critical?
Yeah, that's what I would think that suppression days setting would do, in my mind. Is for us to take the onus on that, because like I said, what happens is when Patch Tuesday comes out, we have 12,000 tickets in ConnectWise Manage, right? It doesn't give doesn't give us a chance to even start the patching. And if there's a critical patch that's out there, I'm fine with going into the portal and manually pushing those alerts over. We can use, the score or, anything like that to kind of differentiate or put different alert templates in place. But the suppressing patching setting, I think, should work across the board and not just for, Microsoft or, third party.
Okay. So Perli, how to add firewall scans in V4? I'll send you the documentation, but basically here you can just add the credentials of the firewall into the normal credentials page. So you don't have to go to separately another page and add the credentials. You add it to the assets as a credential, and automatically, basically, it takes care of the firewall scans. And I'll send you documentation on it. I don't know if Rishali is there, but if Swami, if you're there, can you please send that documentation so that because this is changed in V4.
Sure, sir.
After patch recommendation solution, the problem. Andy, you've raised your hand. Do you have a question?
I do, if I may ask, around remediation and patch management. It seemed like that was the current topic.
Yes.
We work with a NOC located outside of the United States, and we want them to be able to address issues around patch management and basic remediation. In other words, to make sure that those are being addressed. When there are more complicated remediations, i.e. those that have to be scripted either in PowerShell or through a scripting language or through an RMM, I want to be able to create a single ticket for that class of patch. And that would go to a separate queue or service desk, much different than, hey, these remediations need to occur and that that ConnectSecure will not do these. And so I'm attempting to differentiate between different types of remediation and different forms of action to accomplish that remediation. Is that unreasonable to ask help from ConnectSecure in being able to have a remediation go to two different desks for different types of issues?
Andy,
In other words, go ahead.
Actually, I think we can solve this problem, and I think I know how to solve it. I'm just going to lay it out because I think this is something that actually Dennis had told me long time back, and I realized that we didn't do it at that time, and that is probably what you need. If I give you the ability to choose a tag for the different pieces of software, okay, and essentially say that, so basically I'll give you the ability to say that what is auto patch in ConnectSecure, that will essentially be a flag which says this is auto patchable. So you can essentially say whatever is auto patchable in ConnectSecure, you can basically get separately notified on that. Second is that if you basically choose a piece of software, so for example, if you say browsers or this thing, either based on category or based on specific software, because software may be more difficult, but if you say browsers, media players, these can be patched by your NOC team and you want to apply a different tag to it. And then the third one is basically advanced remediations, which basically are things which are not covered in these two. I want to essentially route it to a third ticket. So we can essentially provide you a tag-based ticketing where these three tickets will go through three different buckets and you can switch on the tickets based on this particular tag. Will that work?
I also wish it will be a step in the right direction. I do want to say you're on the, I need the tag to be auto assigned if it is remediable or patchable by ConnectSecure. So I don't have to worry about that class of ticket. If the ticket can't be accomplished by ConnectSecure, then I want to be able to evaluate or perform some logic on that ticket to say, one, is this, for example, a Microsoft patch that was published yesterday? I am delaying a Microsoft patch for a period of time until it's evaluated in a test environment or within a test group. Third is that what if it is a browser extension or something that we've detected either on EPSS or CVSS that needs to be addressed that isn't typically patched by ConnectSecure? Are you able to detect those and give me an option for that? Because browser extensions are becoming, in my view, much more rampant.
Yes, we already do the browser extensions and we are already basically looking at any browser extensions that are vulnerable and basically providing that list too. So
this then takes the whitelist concept to the browser extension and a version, because I'm experiencing some cloud applications are requiring a specific version either of Visual C++ or that extension, and we have to be able to whitelist that as well.
okay. So
is that making sense or no?
It's making sense. So Andy,
Okay.
here's what I will do. I will actually kind of create a plan of how we can basically address this. And I will bring it to the call next week and basically kind of present the plan in the call next week. And if you're in agreement with it, and basically while others can basically chime in terms of if any extensions are required for their specific workflow, then we will implement that into the product.
I am grateful for you hearing me, and I think there's a lot of room to enhance the value of ConnectSecure around remediation and patch management and these workflows.
Thank you, Andy. We will do that. So Shane, you're saying that how do we get Veeam to notice and scan for our backups? It supposedly has the ability, but we are able to exclude Veeam from the list of backup checks, but we still show not having backups enabled across all devices. I'm seeing ServiceNow is able to find, communicate with our backups. So Shane, what we are basically, so this is if the Veeam agent is essentially installed on the machine, then basically it kind of figures it out. So if you can basically kind of give us a view of which particular one system that basically is showing that backups are not enabled to our engineers, then they will essentially figure out how to basically get it fixed for you. Gabriel, when will what you showed be available? Stop job, compliance, this thing, these will, so whatever is in QA will be basically rolled out over the weekend. So it will be available to you on Monday. Is there any time frame on V3 agents will be taken off? That Brijesh, as I said, is a choice that we basically are giving you. We are not going to force any dates on you. So when you are ready to transition, you can go to the V3 portal and basically kind of say that I want all these agents to be removed, and it can be removed. So that's completely up to you. Ian, can you provide us with a list of schedule of which compliance items will be added next? Yes, we'll basically publish this on the web page. We're going to create a new web page with the product roadmap and all of the items there. So I will add it into that and basically send you a link for this. Can I know if the lightweight agent for macOS is digitally signed and has a developer ID? So in terms of digitally signed, it has a digital sign. It does not have a developer ID because the entire developer ID process essentially requires a DUNS number. And we've applied for a DUNS number. We are in the process of getting a DUNS number. So in 2 weeks' time, you will basically see our macOS agent, which will have a developer ID and will be signed with the Apple's certified signature. But basically right now it is signed with our digital signature, which is basically the same thing that is used on the Windows agent. Steve, if an agent is not replicated in V3, how long should it take to replicate in V4? It's probably like anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes it should replicate. If it is not replicating, then it basically means that there is some sort of an error which is occurring. If you go to the V3 portal and look at the migrate portal, under the agent, it will actually show you the error. Again, please, if you can open a quick ticket, I can basically have this seen and tell you what is the exact error because of which the replication is not happening. Okay.
Thank you.
Use CV critical score to alert. That is already there, Huff. So Donovan, because already you can basically alert based on EPSS score and also basically on CV severity. Also, any possibility of adding a remote connection in /silent to the client to check false positives or correct problems identified without the patch applicable by the platform. Jose, is any chance you can kind of explain what this means, like adding a remote connection in /silent?
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, Andy, you had another question.
I have another question. I'm sorry, I came to the meeting late. So one of the questions I have is around policies apply to ConnectSecure as a whole? In other words, basic white lists, establishing minimum configurations, basically an onboarding process with ConnectSecure for a client. Is there is that a consideration for the roadmap in V4 to be able to have a global policy that we could then transfer to the company and have that begin that process with the agents, and be able to pull up reporting? And secondly, and it just dawned on me with this, back to patch management and integration. I don't see that there's a report that ties event sent rules to integration rules and gives me a clear breakdown of how those are assigned by customer or by company.
So you have event set rules which are created, and basically
Yes.
once you create the event set rule, if you look at the in the event set rules, it tells you what should I do with this? Which integration do you want to use? Which credential you want to use? And based
Yep.
on the credential, it will essentially push the whenever that event occurs belonging to that event set, it will basically push it using that integration and that credential set into whatever you've configured for that credential set. So for example,
I'm looking at it at the company mapping level. How do I know what each one has been assigned? And because it's really just a list on the screen at the company mapping level, and it's difficult to audit or proof.
So what you basically need, if I understand, is basically like if I can provide a global report which shows, or a company-wise report which shows which event set is configured with integration, which credential, and
Yes,
okay, so I can provide that report.
that'd be awesome. Thank you. That will help in debugging why we might have road ticket integration, and integration with other systems I see this becoming more of an issue going forward.
We will make this report available so that basically it becomes easy to do this. And we'll also basically look at if in the user interface, we can essentially provide the link to the integrations to which a particular event set is integrated to. And if you go to the integrations and the credentials, a link back to what event sets are configured there. So we'll provide the two-way mapping there. Plus, we'll basically provide a report so that you can download it and look at it offline.
May I ask one last question, and that is, when a ticket can be addressed by ConnectSecure, can we have that some sort of designation put into the PSA ticket that says will be remediated, so that we know they give it time, or the team doesn't have to deal with it right away? Or when you create the ticket, apply the patch and then close the ticket with in a more rapid response.
The auto patch does that in terms of opening the ticket and closing it, but that's a disconnected process, and I understand what you're saying. So what you're saying is that when you open the ticket, basically say that this particular item is basically auto patchable and basically will be addressed automatically. And then when it is done, it will essentially close that ticket and said that it is done. So people will not act on the ticket.
Absolutely what I'm asking, because my engineers don't, it looks like, hey, we have 500 extra tickets today, the next day they're gone. And I'm trying to get us to address tickets in a more coherent process. And when vulnerabilities are detected rapidly, I want to deal with them, if that makes sense.
So we'll do that, Andy.
Thank you.
Luke, have you planned to create a speed configuration for the local LAN scanning? We continue to notice that there are many requests in a few times when the scan starts and then slows down. End user networks frequently. It could be useful to slow down some of the scan actions maybe. So Yuka, we actually have so the way that the scanner behaves right now is that it scans for 50 devices in a batch. And when it's scanning for 50 devices, it's basically kind of doing it in a very in an orderly manner. My only request is that we could basically give an option to say that given the option to reduce the batch size, I will basically make sure that that is made available by next week, and then you can test it out. So right now our batch size is 50. If you want us to reduce that batch size down to 10 or 20, we can essentially do this. But the problem with smaller batch sizes means that you have longer periods where the scans are going to happen. So that's something that you need to be aware of. Maybe add an option for custom fields in subject line. So when it goes to support ticket system, they can write ticket system rules. So you have the ability to create custom templates for event sets that has been released. So with your own custom templates, you can add whatever you want into the tickets. Sean, yeah, the ticketing templates is already in there. It's in QA. It will be released this week. So you can see that this thing. Go over again the advantages of lightweight versus full agent and what we get with one over the other. So I think you got lots of people answering that question. Okay. Firewall scans also, I think, answer. So basically, there's a question from Amir, which is saying that using tactical RMM with a task that creates or changes admin user password daily or weekly, it's called labs and provides a way for this thing. Good way to be able to access all the agents with a dedicated admin that is a weekly automated run. We'll look into this. So that way, basically, maybe then we don't need to kind of, yep.
Yes, this is a way to have the system store change and replace the password automatically, even on a daily basis, and have it control the password on the agent. And then there's no need to manually change when the admin changes or the user is changing the password.
Understood. So we'll look into this thing. Any timeline or on the advanced reporting features that were demoed a few months ago? Yes, we are basically, the new report builder is almost out, and we're basically going to give you more features. We've finished the cover page and we've finished all of those pieces, but a few more bells and whistles that we're basically adding. So I think in the next 3 weeks, you will essentially see all those bells and whistles basically being added. Is it possible in V4 to schedule reports and have them mailed? Yes, all of your V3 schedulers are migrated over and they are already basically scheduling reports and they can be emailed. Brian, this 2FA inside of this thing, inside of the underlying platform we're using, disabling it for the users who basically are coming from an external scan is something that we are working on. We expect this to basically take a week for us to basically close this. So Jose, to basically check if something is a false positive or not, which means that you're asking for the ability to run a command remotely on the machine to see if it is a false positive. The answer is right now, no. We basically don't give the ability to run arbitrary commands because unfortunately, since we are a security product, we don't want the ability for anyone to weaponize this by running a command or whatever it is. So we will basically look into this and see how it can be provided safely. But right now, we don't have the ability to kind of make a remote connection. And honestly speaking, we don't want to do it right now because we don't want to become another agent which could be potentially weaponized. So I think we've covered all of the questions. So Sean, you have the ability to migrate them in the V3 UI itself. So you can essentially click on migrate and it will basically migrate. If you want us to migrate it, then just send over as just send it over to us and we'll do the migration for you. So perfect. So we covered all of the questions. So if on events at that field, we can really get remediation available out of the alerting, it will be great to filter out events and vulnerabilities. Yes, Sean, that's something that Andy already talked about. And as I said, next week we'll come up with the list which we can kind of as to how to we'll be implementing it. And if everybody is in concurrence with it, we'll basically take it forward. Is there any update on the best practices document that Ryan said he would be working on? I will follow up with Ryan and basically get you an update on this. And since V4 is basically going to become production ready, we'll make sure that this document is available to you on the 3rd of March. So as I said, folks, thank you for all the support and the ability for us to basically get a lot of feedback from the whole piece. And we will essentially kind of walk through this. And the second is that we are also basically going to be starting from the 3rd of March till 8th of March, our team is going to be at Right of Boom. So if you are at the Right of Boom, we would be happy to meet up with you and basically get your feedback, anything that you essentially think should be added. All of that essentially would be very useful to add, to talk about and basically discuss when we are there. In addition to that, please catch us at Right of Boom and we will basically kind of anything that you need, we can basically talk about. So thank you all for your time and basically we will see you next week, same time.
Thank you.